Success and failure are not who you are. They are experiences, not definitions. The problem is that too many people attach their sense of self to what they achieve or what they lose. When you win, you feel invincible, like you've cracked the code to life. When you fail, you feel worthless, like you've been exposed as a fraud. But this cycle of emotional extremes isn't sustainable. It's a dangerous trap, because it makes your sense of worth dependent on something that is constantly changing: outcomes. And the truth is, outcomes are unpredictable. You can control your effort, your preparation, and your mindset, but you cannot control every external factor that influences a result. So when you let success or failure define you, you give away your power to things you can't control. When you succeed, it's easy to feel like you've finally arrived. The applause, the recognition, the validation, it feels good. But the danger lies in believing that those things make you valuable. Because the moment the applause fades or the recognition disappears, you're left questioning your worth. That's why so many successful people spiral when they reach the top. They chase the high of success over and over again, thinking that more success will give them the feeling they've lost. But it never works, because the problem was never about success. It was about identity. If your sense of self is attached to your success, then you will always feel like you have to earn your worth. You will become a prisoner to performance, constantly chasing the next win just to feel valuable. That's why success doesn't bring lasting peace. It's temporary, and when it's gone, so is your sense of value. Failure creates the same illusion in reverse. When you fail, it's easy to think that you are a failure. You start to believe that the outcome reflects your value as a person. That's why people struggle to recover from major setbacks. They don't just feel like they lost, they feel like they are lost. They carry the weight of failure as if it's a permanent mark on their identity. But failure is not a reflection of your worth. It's just information. It's feedback. It's a signal that something didn't work. That's all it is. When you fail, it doesn't mean you're not enough. It means you have the opportunity to adjust, to grow, to evolve. But when you tie failure to identity, you rob yourself of that opportunity because you become stuck in shame instead of growth. You stop trying because you believe you're not capable. But failure is not a final judgment. It's a doorway to something better, if you're willing to see it that way. The key is to separate identity from outcome. You are not your achievements, and you are not your failures. You are the person who shows up in the process. You are the person who keeps going when it's hard. You are the person who learns, who grows, who adapts. That's where true strength lies, not in the outcome, but in the person you become through the process. When you stop tying your worth to success, you unlock a new kind of freedom. You are no longer controlled by the fear of losing or the pressure of winning. You become steady. Success no longer inflates you, and failure no longer breaks you. You remain centered because your value isn't up for negotiation. It's already established. Think about the strongest people you know. They aren't the ones who win all the time. They are the ones who stay grounded, whether they win or lose. They don't crumble under pressure because they aren't performing to prove their worth. They already know their worth. That's the shift. When you separate identity from outcome, you stop living in fear. You stop chasing validation. You stop measuring yourself by what you accomplish and start measuring yourself by how you show up. With integrity, with resilience, with courage, that's where true confidence comes from. Not from knowing you'll always win, but from knowing that even if you lose, you'll still be whole. There's nothing wrong with wanting to succeed. There's nothing wrong with celebrating a win or feeling the sting of a loss. But you have to remember that those things are passing moments, not permanent states. They are seasons, not definitions. Success can be taken away, failure can be reversed, but who you are, your strength, your character, your values, That's permanent. When you ground yourself in that truth, you become unshakable. Success becomes a gift, not a requirement. Failure becomes a lesson, not a verdict, and through it all, you remain whole. External validation is one of the most addictive forces in life. The applause, the recognition, the approval, it feels good. It reinforces the idea that you're doing something right. But when you start depending on it, when it becomes the measure of your worth, you give away your power. You become a puppet to other people's opinions, constantly adjusting yourself to fit their expectations. You start chasing approval instead of truth. You start living for acceptance instead of authenticity. And the problem with that is simple. External validation is temporary. It's unreliable. It's inconsistent. You can't build a steady life on a foundation that shifts with the moods and judgments of others. Think about how much energy you've wasted trying to control how people see you. You've watered down your thoughts to avoid criticism. You've held back your voice to avoid rejection. You've overextended yourself just to earn the praise of people who might not even care about you tomorrow. And for what? A brief moment of recognition, a temporary sense of acceptance. That kind of validation is fleeting. It's a moving target that will never stay in place long enough for you to feel secure. The more you chase it, the emptier you become, because it forces you to betray yourself. When you prioritize approval over authenticity, you lose the connection to who you really are. You start presenting a version of yourself that isn't whole. It's just a reflection of what you think other people want. And over time, that emptiness becomes unbearable. The truth is, external validation is a shallow reward. It can make you feel good for a moment, but it can't give you peace. It can't give you strength. It can't give you the kind of confidence that lasts when the applause fades. That kind of confidence comes from within. It comes from knowing that you are enough, not because of what you've accomplished, not because of how many people admire you, but because you are anchored in something deeper. When you detach from external validation, you stop living reactively. You stop shifting to meet the opinions of others, and you start living from a place of truth. Your decisions are no longer based on how they'll be perceived. They're based on what feels right, and that's where freedom begins. When you live for external validation, you're living in a constant state of vulnerability, not because you're open, but because you're exposed. Your sense of self is at the mercy of things you cannot control. Other people's thoughts, opinions, and reactions. That's why it feels exhausting. That's why you feel anxious even when you succeed, because deep down you know that the approval you're getting isn't stable. It's conditional. It's based on performance, not essence. And the moment you stop performing, the approval disappears. That's not strength. That's survival, and you were meant for more than just surviving. Strength comes when you stop needing people to tell you who you are. It comes when you stop outsourcing your sense of worth to the crowd. That doesn't mean you have to reject all recognition or dismiss all feedback. It means you stop letting it define you. If someone praises you, it's a gift, not a definition. If someone criticizes you, it's information, not a verdict. You take what's useful, you leave what's not, and you keep moving forward. You don't build your sense of self on someone else's shifting opinion. You build it on truth. Detaching from external validation means finding security within yourself. It means being able to stand tall even when no one is clapping for you. It means knowing that your value doesn't increase when you succeed, and it doesn't decrease when you fail. It means understanding that praise doesn't make you better and criticism doesn't make you worse. You are steady, you are whole, and when you live from that place, you become unshakable. Other people's opinions lose their power over you. Approval becomes a bonus, not a requirement. You are no longer controlled by the need to be liked, accepted, or admired. You stop chasing the high of recognition and start focusing on the substance of your life. Think about how much lighter you would feel if you weren't constantly trying to please everyone. Think about how much more grounded you would be if you didn't have to adjust yourself every time someone had an opinion about your life. That's the power of detachment. It's not about rejecting people, it's about reclaiming yourself. It's about deciding that your peace is more important than their approval. It's about choosing to stand in truth even when it's unpopular. Because the truth is, no amount of external validation can make up for a lack of internal security. You can win every award, reach every milestone, and still feel empty if you've built your life on other people's approval. But when you anchor yourself in truth, when you detach from the need to be validated, you stop needing to prove yourself. You stop needing to explain yourself. You stop needing to be anything other than exactly who you are. That's where real freedom is found. Not in the applause, not in the recognition, but in the quiet knowing that you are already enough. Failure has a way of cutting deep. It feels personal. It feels final. When you fail at something, whether it's a project, a relationship, or a personal goal, it's easy to slip into the belief that you are the failure, that somehow the outcome defines you. But failure isn't a verdict. It's a lesson. It's not proof that you're not good enough. It's feedback. It's life's way of revealing where you need to adjust, where you need to grow, and where you need to strengthen your foundation. The problem isn't failure itself. It's how we interpret it. Most people see failure as a judgment, a reflection of their inadequacy. But that's not the truth. Failure isn't telling you that you're not enough. It's telling you that you've discovered a gap in your approach, a misstep in your strategy, or a misalignment in your direction. It's not personal, it's practical. And when you start treating failure as a teacher instead of a punishment, everything changes. Think about how you learned to walk as a child. You didn't get it right on the first try. You stood up, took a step, and fell, over and over again. But you didn't label yourself a failure. You didn't decide you were incapable. You instinctively knew that falling was part of the process, and so you kept getting up. You learned to adjust your balance, you figured out how to shift your weight, and eventually you mastered walking. That's how you learn everything in life, through trial and error. But somewhere along the way, you were taught that failure isn't acceptable, that mistakes are a sign of weakness, that if you don't get it right the first time, you're not cut out for it. That mindset is what limits you, not the failure itself. Failure is only destructive when you turn it into a narrative about your worth. When you start to believe that failing means you're not enough, you lose the ability to extract the lesson. You become so focused on the emotional sting of failure that you miss the gift it's trying to give you. But when you separate your identity from the outcome, when you treat failure as information instead of judgment, you take back your power. You stop being emotionally paralyzed by setbacks. You start approaching life with the mindset of a learner, someone who understands that mastery is built on the foundation of failure. Every time you fail, you gather more data. You learn what works and what doesn't. You build resilience, adaptability, and strength. Failure becomes a stepping stone instead of a stumbling block. The most successful people in the world aren't immune to failure. They're fluent in it. They've learned to detach from the emotional weight of failing and focus instead on the information it provides. They study their failures without shame. They ask better questions. They don't sit in self-pity. They ask, what went wrong? What can I adjust? What needs to change? And then they apply that knowledge. They evolve. That's why they keep succeeding. Not because they avoid failure, but because they've mastered the art of learning from it. It's easy to get stuck in the emotional aftermath of failure, the disappointment, the embarrassment, the sense of defeat. They all feel so personal. But when you step back and realize that failure is just a form of feedback, you stop taking it so personally. You start to see that failure isn't a reflection of your value, it's a reflection of your process. If you treat failure as a teacher, it stops being painful and starts being useful. It stops being an attack on your self-worth and starts being a tool for growth. The reason so many people struggle with failure is because they confuse it with identity. They think failing means they are a failure. But you are not your results. You are not defined by a single outcome. Just because something didn't work doesn't mean you are flawed. It means you need to adjust. It means you're still learning. That shift in mindset is everything. Because when you stop fearing failure, you stop avoiding risk. You stop playing small. You stop holding back because you're afraid of what might happen if it doesn't work out. You start taking action with confidence because you understand that even if you fail, you'll gain something valuable. Failure gives you clarity. It shows you what's not working so you can refine your approach. It reveals weaknesses so you can strengthen them. It highlights blind spots so you can correct them. That's why failure is necessary. It's not a punishment. It's a gift. But only if you have the courage to receive it. If you're too busy protecting your ego or defending your pride, you'll miss the lesson. If you're too consumed by self-criticism, you'll miss the insight. Failure is trying to give you something, but you have to be willing to sit with it, study it, and extract the wisdom it contains. The truth is, success and failure are not opposites. They are partners. Success is built on the foundation of failure. Every setback is a building block. Every mistake is a stepping stone. You can't have one without the other. So stop trying to avoid failure. Embrace it. Stop trying to protect yourself from setbacks. Expect them. The goal isn't to be perfect. It's to be adaptable. The goal isn't to never fail. It's to fail better. If you can learn to see failure as a necessary part of growth, you'll stop being afraid of it. You'll stop letting it hold you back. You'll realize that failure isn't the end. It's the beginning of a new level of strength, clarity, and resilience. When you embrace failure as a teacher, you stop fearing it. And that's when you become truly unstoppable. Success is seductive. When you achieve something meaningful, a big win at work, recognition for your talent, a personal milestone, it's easy to get swept away by the feeling. It's easy to let that success become a part of your identity, to see it as proof of your value. People start praising you, opportunities begin to multiply, and suddenly you find yourself standing at the top of the mountain, feeling like you've arrived. But success, if you're not careful, has a way of distorting reality. It can make you feel invincible. It can make you believe that you're better than others, or that you're above the normal rules of life. It creates a sense of superiority that can slowly erode your character and perspective. Success is not dangerous because it's inherently bad. It's dangerous because it tricks you into thinking that you are the success itself, that your worth is tied to the outcome, that your identity is now linked to the result. That's where the real trap lies. The moment you let success define you, you become a prisoner of it. You start operating not from a place of growth, but from a place of protection. You're no longer focused on improving or evolving. You're focused on maintaining the image of success. You start avoiding risks because failure would shatter the identity you've built. You stop learning because admitting you don't know something feels like weakness. Success becomes a cage rather than a platform. You're no longer free to explore, to innovate, to push boundaries. Because failure now feels too costly. It's not just a setback anymore, it's an attack on your identity. That's why so many people, after reaching the peak of success, find themselves empty. They thought success would bring lasting fulfillment, but instead it left them feeling trapped. True strength comes from staying grounded even when you succeed. It's about recognizing that success is not who you are, It's simply a result of what you've done. Your success is a product of your effort, your strategy, your persistence, but it's not your identity. The moment you confuse the two, you give success too much power over you. If you tie your identity to success, you'll rise and fall with every win and loss. When things are going well, you'll feel unstoppable, but the moment something goes wrong, your confidence will collapse. That's why you need to anchor yourself in something deeper than the outcome. Your value doesn't come from the result. It comes from your character, your discipline, your resilience. Success is fleeting. Who you are beneath it is what remains. Think about it. If you strip away the awards, the money, the recognition, who are you? If success disappeared tomorrow, would you still feel valuable? Would you still feel whole? If the answer is no, then you've given success too much control over your sense of self. True peace comes from knowing that your worth isn't tied to external validation. It comes from knowing that even without the success, you're still enough. That's the mindset that keeps you grounded. It allows you to enjoy success without being controlled by it. It lets you appreciate the reward without letting it define you. Success should be treated like a gift, not a foundation. A gift can be appreciated, but it doesn't become your core. When you stay grounded, you can navigate success with humility. You can take the compliment without letting it inflate your ego. You can win without feeling the need to prove yourself. You remain steady because you know that success is temporary, but who you are beneath it is permanent. That's why some of the most successful people in the world are also some of the most humble. They've learned not to let success alter their sense of self. They see success as an outcome, not an identity. They are grateful for it, but they don't depend on it. Staying grounded also protects you from the inevitable highs and lows of life. Success isn't a constant state, it's a cycle. There will be seasons of progress and seasons of setbacks. If your self-worth is built on success, those low seasons will crush you. But if your foundation is internal, if your confidence comes from knowing who you are regardless of the outcome, you'll weather those seasons with strength. You'll learn from them instead of being broken by them. When you are grounded in something deeper than success, you can handle the wins and the losses with the same level of grace. You don't get carried away when things are going well, and you don't collapse when things fall apart. That's the real strength. Emotional stability, resilience, and clarity that isn't shaken by external events. Success is a reflection of your effort, but it's not a measure of your value. Who you are when no one's watching. That's where your real power lies. How you handle yourself when the spotlight fades. That's what defines you. When you can stand confidently in your value, regardless of whether you win or lose, you've mastered success. You can walk away from the applause without feeling empty. You can face setbacks without feeling like a failure, because you understand that success is not who you are, it's simply what you've created. And when you reach that level of detachment, you're free. Free to pursue greatness without being consumed by it. Free to enjoy the rewards without being controlled by them. Free to keep growing without the fear of losing it all. Success becomes a tool, not a trap. And that's the kind of strength that lasts. Life will test you. There will be moments of extraordinary success when everything seems to fall into place effortlessly. The world will celebrate you, people will praise you, doors will open, and you'll feel like you're finally winning. But there will also be moments of crushing disappointment. Times when the work doesn't pay off, when people let you down, when failure comes despite your best effort. And the true challenge isn't in experiencing those highs and lows, it's in maintaining emotional balance through them. Most people get swept away by the extremes. When things are going well, they ride the high, but when things fall apart, they crash emotionally. They let their mood, their confidence, and their sense of self-worth be dictated by the circumstances. But the secret to true strength isn't about eliminating the highs and lows. It's about learning how to stay steady through them. When success comes, it's easy to let it inflate your sense of self. The recognition, the applause, the validation, it feels good. But the danger is in letting that feeling define you. When you allow success to dictate your emotional state, you become dependent on it. You start chasing that high, needing the next win to feel valuable. The problem is, success is never guaranteed. Life is unpredictable, and the moment you build your emotional state around external success, you give it the power to control you. That's why so many people crumble when they hit setbacks. Their emotional stability was tied to the outcome, and when the outcome changed, so did their confidence and sense of self. Emotional balance requires detachment, not from the experience itself, but from the emotional weight you place on it. It's about appreciating success without becoming addicted to it. It's about recognizing failure without letting it damage your self-worth. Success and failure are external events. They are not reflections of your value. When you separate your identity from the outcome, you gain the power to remain emotionally steady no matter what happens. You can celebrate success without arrogance, and you can face failure without collapsing. That's real strength, not reacting emotionally to every rise and fall, but standing steady through all of it. It's easy to think that emotional strength means suppressing your feelings, but it's not about that. It's about allowing yourself to feel the moment without being consumed by it. When you succeed, enjoy it, but don't let it make you feel untouchable. When you fail, feel the disappointment, but don't let it make you feel worthless. Emotional balance comes from recognizing that both success and failure are temporary states. They come and go. What matters is who you are beneath them. When you know that, you can step into any situation with confidence. You're not trying to control the outcome, you're controlling how you respond to it. When things are going well, stay grounded. Appreciate the success, but don't let it make you complacent. Keep working, keep growing, keep learning. Success is a gift, not a destination. If you let it make you comfortable, you'll lose the edge that got you there in the first place. Success should fuel you to keep moving forward, not make you believe you've already arrived. And when failure comes, and it will come, meet it with the same level of steadiness. Don't run from it. Don't let it define you. Face it with courage and honesty. Ask yourself what you can learn from it. See it as feedback, not a judgment. The most resilient people in the world aren't the ones who never fail. They're the ones who don't let failure alter their sense of self. Emotional balance is about perspective. When you succeed, don't believe the hype. And when you fail, don't believe the criticism. The truth is always somewhere in the middle. The problem is that most people build their emotional state around extremes. They feel unstoppable when they win and hopeless when they lose. That's why you see people burn out after success or spiral after failure. They've tied their emotional identity to the outcome. But the real power comes from being steady through all of it. Not getting too high with the wins, not getting too low with the losses. Knowing that both are part of the process. Knowing that neither defines you. It's about learning to ride the waves without losing your balance. When you're grounded internally, external events lose their power over you. Success becomes a moment to enjoy, not a source of ego. Failure becomes a lesson, not a source of shame. You don't get thrown off course by every shift in circumstance, because your confidence is built on something deeper than results. It's built on knowing who you are, independent of the outcome. That's what emotional balance gives you, the ability to move through life with strength and clarity no matter what happens. You become untouchable, not because you never experience difficulty, but because difficulty no longer defines you. There will be wins, there will be losses. That's the rhythm of life. But you don't have to rise and fall with it. You don't have to let success or failure dictate your emotional state. When you understand that success and failure are just experiences, not reflections of your value, you reclaim your power. You stop needing success to feel whole, and you stop fearing failure as if it could take something from you. That's the mindset that makes you truly free. You become unstoppable, not because life always works in your favor, but because you've learned how to handle it when it doesn't. Success and failure will come and go, but when you know who you are beyond both, you'll walk through life with unshakable strength, steady, grounded, and truly free.